Hello, book friends. It is a new year, a fresh start, a time to make goals, set intentions, and that is what I'm here to do today. I'm going to share all about my 2026 reading plans. And the real question is, am I actually making any plans or setting any goals? Stay tuned and find out. Hello, I'm Jen and welcome back to my reading life, and welcome to today's video all about my 2026 reading plans. And I am going to share right up front that I don't have a lot of plans or goals for 2026. I have this short little list here in my trusty notebook, and I'm going to go through it with you, but the plan for this year is to not have a strict plan. That is my number one reading goal. I really feel like last year, and I will link my video where I set my goals for last year, they were too much. They were too much. They were too rigid. Even though I, set them knowing that I may or may not stick to them, I just felt like as soon as I set them, I wanted to completely disregard them. Does anyone else do that when you set goals for yourself? Suddenly you want to do the exact opposite of that thing. And so I thought for 2026 is the year of ease, of slowness, of getting back to the natural rhythms of life. And I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the video. But I really wanted my reading life to also reflect that. So I have some intentions, we'll call them, for the coming year in terms of my reading life, but there are no hard and fast rules. Except the only rule is there are no strict rules, only gentle guidelines. And let me share what some of those gentle guidelines are, subject to change at any time. Before I get into my gentle guidelines that I have set up, I do want to say that I actually did toy with the idea of just not setting any goals at all, just completely going into a full-on year of just letting my mood reading take me where it will. But that is only one part of my personality. The other side of it very much likes structure and rules and guidelines to follow. And so I'm feeling like what I have created here is a good melding of those two sides and two aspects of my personality. And I'm hoping that that works well for me this year. We shall see. I did do a mid-year wrap-up of my 2025 goals, and I really just kind of let them go at that point. So I don't think I'm going to do a full year wrap-up of 2025 because my goals just all scattered to the four winds. And we can just leave it at that. If you would like to see where I got to at the midpoint of 2025, I will also link that video in the description box below, so be sure to go and check that one out. But I'm hoping with these more gentle guidelines that 2026, I can kind of keep up with them, and then at the end of the year or the beginning of next year, I can touch base on how I felt about these guidelines and how that kind of helped or didn't help my reading life. We shall see. But let us get into what those gentle guidelines are. I need a quick sip of tea first, though. Still using and loving my new mug. My first gentle guideline is to continue to prioritize reading the books that are on my physical bookshelves. I've reorganized this. These books on here that you used to see through the end of last year were, while I had my favorites behind my reading sign here, all the rest of the books on this shelf used to be unread books. I have since switched things up, and now this contains all of my read books. So favorites are still behind this sign, and then I have my read books that I have finished reading on these shelves. I've categorized the first couple of shelves, and then the rest are just in alphabetical order. All of my read fiction, I should say, adult fiction. I have nonfiction and middle grade books out in another room. But I do still have 2 other bookshelves across from me at either ends of my chaise lounge, and they contain almost entirely books I have not read. My read books do continue onto the top 2 shelves of one of the bookshelves, which match this one. And the other one does also have some Christmas books at the bottom of it. And also there are some nonfiction and poetry books and things. That's a mix of things I've read and haven't read. So I would say in total, I think I have about 9 shelves worth of unread books. That ought to keep me busy. So I don't want to say I'm going to read a certain number off my shelf, or even that those should take precedence over new books that come into my life, but just that I want to kind of keep prioritizing them. Those books that I have had since before the start of 2026. So everything that I received for Christmas still counts. And then of course, everything before that I've received. And I do have some books that have been sitting on my shelf for quite a few years, and I would love to get to some of them. So we shall see what 2026 brings us in terms of reading off my shelves. But it just feels so satisfying to have the shelves of all of my finished books start to outnumber the the shelves of books that I have not read. So that is my goal. If we can get more shelves of read books than unread books, I will feel very good about that. Even though I still do like to have sort of a library of unread books, because I like to browse through them and mood read. And so it's lovely for me to have a large variety of unread books in my possession. That's just the kind of reader I am. Some people only like to have a very small stack of unread books that they're going to get to in the next short period of time, but I like to view my books as a library and as a collection and not as a TBR. So I may never get to some of these books, but they are here if I ever do want to. And then my next gentle guideline is to focus on mood reading. So just to continue to lean into reading to suit my mood so that I hopefully don't run into any kind of reading slump. And mood reading could mean that I suddenly get an itch to read a newly published book and I prioritize that. It could mean that I'm suddenly in the mood to reread an old favorite. And it could mean that I just need to spend some time browsing my own shelves, or going to the library, or browsing at a bookstore and finding a new book that catches my fancy and that I just want to dive into right at that moment. So I'm hoping to continue leaning into mood reading. I'm very much a seasonal reader, and so I want to continue, obviously, to read seasonally and also to keep my moods in mind. December was very much a mystery mood, and I'm still leaning into the mystery mood reading at the moment. And so I'm trying to kind of keep that momentum going by having a mystery book on the go, just so that I don't start feeling the itch to just read mysteries and forego all of the other books that I'm also reading and enjoying, just because mystery is kind of pulling me in at the moment. And then a bit of an extension of that mood reading concept is to really make sure that 2026 has a good mix of both books that I'm reading for buddy reads, group reads, read-alongs, reading challenges, along with books that I'm just reading for me, just books that I want to read for myself. So just kind of remaining focused on not overtaxing myself and overcommitting myself to too many buddy reads and group reads, because I do get very excited when people ask me if I want to read something with them, but I think I need to learn to say either no, or not right now, or could we do this in a future month or next year sometime, whatever the case may be, so that I can still allow each month to have breathing room for me to mood read, seasonal read, and just enjoy reading for reading's sake, because it's my favorite hobby and I want to continue to stay my favorite hobby. And then my last gentle guideline is that I want to continue rereading favorite books. And I have already shared some of the books that I am hoping to reread in 2026. I will link that video here in the cards and in the description box below if you'd like to go check that out. That was part of my Vlogmas content in December. And I've already reread one book, of course, and that was 84 Charing Cross Road for the New Year's Day read-along that I hosted. And so lovely, so charming, so wonderful. So glad it was my first read and my first reread of 2026. This is just the best book. So yes, I still want to continue leaning into those rereads. And then there is one final piece to my intentions for my reading life for 2026. And this piece has a bit more structure to it, but I'm not making a hard and fast rule about this. So I have collected a few types of books. I have 5 types of books that I am going to include at least one book from each of these categories in my monthly piles of possibilities. This does not mean that I will read one of these books every month, but I will add a title to my pile of possibilities from each one of these categories. So here are the 5 categories: a mystery, a classic, a Dean Street Press title, a Persephone title, so Persephone Publishers, one of their books, and then a comfort read. And to me, this sort of fulfills kind of the main types of books I like to read. So mysteries, classics, comfort reads. And comfort reads is very broad, obviously, and that could encompass all kinds of books. And then I really do want to make a dent. I have amassed quite a big collection of both Dean Street Press titles and Persephone titles, and I would like to make it a priority to read those this year. So that is why those are going to go on my piles of possibilities every month. And then, of course, when I was reviewing what my intentions and plans for my reading life were for 2026, I realized that I did not include all of these categories in my January pile of possibilities. So I do have a few books to share with you so that you will all know which books I selected for January that fit into each of those 5 categories. Luckily, most of them fit into the read-alongs that I am already doing for January. So both Epistolary January and Jane Austen January have books that fit into these categories. And first up is actually a book I am buddy reading with one of my lovely viewers, and that is The Documents in the Case by Dorothy L. Sayers. And this is actually an epistolary mystery, and it is written entirely in letters and other documents that are part of like an ongoing court case. And there has been a death. And though you don't really even know about it, I am about 70 pages in and the death still hasn't occurred because all you're doing is reading through the documents kind of leading up to it so far. And I am finding this really engaging. I was a little bit trepidatious because some of the reviews of this book, people didn't enjoy it that much, but I'm really liking it. So I am very curious to see where it goes. It's incredibly readable because it is in epistolary format. Each little letter is quite short, so it's very easy to get through. And yes, so cannot wait to finish this one, but this will count as my mystery for January, though I have already started the second book in the Her Royal Spyness series by Rhys Bowen, which is called Royal Pain, I believe. So I just started that on audio and very much enjoying spending some more time with Georgie. She is such a fun character, so I have that mystery going as well. And then after that, I'm planning to read an Agatha Christie or listen to an Agatha Christie audiobook, because sort of a little side intention goal for myself is to try to read through as many of the remaining Agatha Christie books as I can in 2026. So I would like to, if possible, get to one every month. And there are a few of her books that I want to reread in 2026. So kind of going to do a little blending of that. But I have Passenger to Frankfurt on audio. And so I am planning to listen to that when I finish Royal Pain. Lots of mysteries happening in January. Like I said, I'm still very much in a mystery reading mood. And then next up, of course, for my 5 categories is a classic. And what else would I be reading but Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen? Loving my reread of this. So wonderful. And yeah, what else is there to say except I'm just loving spending time with the Dashwoods, and it's just a delight. I can't wait to start discussing it with all of you today when this video goes live. And then for my Dean Street Press title for January, I am, of course, going to hopefully read Mrs. Tim Carries On by D.E. Stevenson. This is the second book in the Mrs. Tim series, and this counts for Epistolary January. It is written entirely in journal entries, and yeah, cannot wait. I love Mrs. Tim, love the first book, and really want to finish the Mrs. Tim series in 2026, but this is my Dean Street Press title for January. And then for my Persephone title, I decided to pick something that was a little bit on the shorter side because I have a lot of other books that I'm reading for both Epistolary January and also Jane Austen January. And so I thought it would be fun to read a little bit of poetry by a poet who I think is just wonderful and so very funny. And that is It's Hard to Be Hip Over 30 by Judith Viorst. And I've read a number of Judith Viorst's poetry books over the years. I have a couple on my shelf still, and I think she is very fun. And her poems are just so easy and light. And this is a lot of poetry about sort of married life. So the full title is It's Hard to Be Hip Over 30 and Other Tragedies of Married Life. And then this also contains poems from People and Other Aggravations. So she's quite funny, and I'm very much looking forward to reading her. She's definitely of her time when she was writing these poems, but they're very fun. I feel like she's almost like an adult Shel Silverstein. They have that kind of rhyme and rhythm to them, and very much looking forward to this little volume of poetry. And then for my comfort read, well, I've already read it. And truly, the D.E. Stevenson book could count as a comfort read. Sense and Sensibility could count as a comfort read. I have a number of other books on my pile of possibilities, and I think any one of them could be comfort reads. But of course, 84 Charing Cross Road most certainly classifies as a comfort read, so I can definitely check that one off for January. So those are the 5 books that count for my 5 categories that I'm going to include in my pile of possibilities for every month. Hopefully I'll remember to do that in February since I clearly forgot to do it in my January pile of possibilities. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, one of the things I'm really focusing on for 2026 is just slowing down and settling into the rhythms of life in all of the different seasons that occur throughout the year. I'm really working hard on detaching myself from my addiction to my phone and to social media, and really working on leaning into the physical world and analog living and slowing down and just savoring life. And while I certainly appreciate technology, I am coming to you through technology and social media right now. I just want to be more intentional about using it rather than just getting sucked into scrolling on my phone and then finding myself 2 hours later with no accounting for my time. And so I just want to work on being more cognizant of how I'm utilizing social media and technology in general. So that is a big intention of mine for 2026. we shall see how it goes. I think like most things, it's gonna have some ebb and flow to it. I know I've already been kind of gently leaning into that over the past month or month and a half, and I still definitely have moments where I reflexively pick up my phone anytime I have a down moment, and I'm really trying to get away from that. So if any of you are also trying to relieve yourself of that addiction to the phone, then I'm with you in solidarity. I just feel like I want to spend my time in more productive ways, whether that be reading or spending time with my family or cross-stitching or doing another craft or baking or cooking a new recipe or working on my channel plans, whatever it might be, just not endlessly scrolling through my phone with no real plan or purpose and suddenly losing hours out of my day because of that. That is another gentle guideline for 2026. And that will do it. A short and sweet little look at my 2026 reading plans. Are they plans? I guess they're plans. I'm not going to call them goals because goals feel so rigid and structured, and I immediately push back against that. So plans, intentions, gentle guidelines. I know this is the time of year when everybody's very gung-ho about starting new things, but I'm actually trying to kind of lean into a little bit of that sort of hibernation mode that winter puts us in, and looking forward to spring for more of a rejuvenation and, rebirth of life, because that's when things start to come alive again, is in the springtime. And so I'm just kind of leaning into the quietness and the coziness of winter. That's what feels right for me. But let us chat down in the comments all about our 2026 intentions for our life and our reading plans and all that good stuff. And if you're here but you don't have anything you'd like to add in the comments, but you'd like to let me know that you were here, because comments really do help my channel, why don't you leave some sort of calendar emoji, since we are starting a new year. So we are turning the page of a new calendar. I really do love seeing those emojis, and those comments, as I said, really do help my channel, as do likes and now hypes. If you're on the YouTube mobile app, you can hit that hype button, and that really does help YouTube to promote my videos. And also, if you are new here and you haven't yet subscribed, I would love it if you'd hit that subscribe button and join my cozy bookish community. And I'll be back with another video very soon. And until then, I wish you a good book and a warm cuppa. Bye!